The world of ignorance is a wonderful place when you are young. If only we could stay there forever, life would be so much easier, and people would be a lot happier not taking life so seriously. But life does not and cannot work that way. Ignorance is crushed eventually and is replaced with cynicism, depression, or anger. But perhaps one of the worst replacements is running away from the trouble, trying to regain the ignorance that was lost. But once ignorance is lost, it cannot be regained. Memories cannot be wiped, and the past will follow you until it is dealt with. In The Lion King, we see this ignorance in Simba. He is hopeful, he is proud, he is ambitious, and adventurous, like many young boys are. But he is not ready for what he wants, what he believes he can do. This is displayed when the hyenas attack him and Nala in the elephant graveyard. Although he does not back down, he is not able to stop what is about to happen. It is not until his father arrives that the situation is handled, and that day, Simba was taught a valuable lesson on his current position, and he learned the genuine love that his father held for him. But Simba's father was taken from him much too soon. In the moment of his father's death, Simba immediately turned to the next male role model in his life for guidance. What Scar said to Simba created an irreversible gash through Simba's heart. That his father's death was his fault. And the final piece of advice Simba takes from this scarred man is to run away and never return. Lying in the dust, depressed, starving, and completely defeated, Simba meets Pumbaa and Timon, and what they teach Simba is to live Hakuna Matata. No worries, just be happy. I will admit, living like this is better than deep depression, where you give up on life. But living Hakuna Matata stunts growth and never allows you to work through your past. It is true that you should not live in the past, but it is not true that you should never work through it. Simba lives with Pumbaa and Timon for a while, but his past eventually catches up to him. He was happy for a moment because the death of his father was rather distant at this time, but the fallout from Mufasa's death and Simba running away were very much present. No food, no water, and the land was dead and destroyed. You can only live in ignorance for so long. And Simba even tried to extend his ignorance by running from Nala. As he ran away, he paces back and forth in a field and finally shouts up at the sky that his father should have been there. This not only means that he should have been there for Simba, but also for Pride Rock as well. Simba is cowering in fear and guilt, but it is in this moment that Simba recognizes his fault. He is essentially confessing his sins. Then, this is when his father returns to him, riding on the clouds. And this is all sounding very familiar. Anyways, Simba's father is in the clouds, speaking to him, and tells him to remember who you are. After being reaffirmed by his father, Simba then returns to Pride Rock, reveals the truth, and casts Scar into the fire, where there is gnashing of teeth. Now that we went over the general plot and Simba's character arc, why did his dad die? Obviously, the main reason Mufasa died was so the story could happen. But what I want to assess is the moral of the story, which I already touched on a bit earlier. Mufasa died to save his son's life. If Simba had been raised upright, this display of sacrifice could have made him the perfect king. But Scar put a stop to that. Instead, the lesson was drawn out. It became hard for Simba to see the value in his father's death. All he could feel was guilt and shame that the king would sacrifice himself to save someone like him. But that is the exact lesson to take away from Mufasa's death. He set the example. He set the standard. This is what the king does. But Simba lost that lesson for a while, running away and hiding behind an ignorance that was no longer there. Simba's father died to save his son's life, to teach him the lesson of sacrifice, and the lesson of having no fear when the moment arises. And finally, a lesson about the realities of life as a king. That the king should be willing to die to save the pride. Outside of his father's death, Simba also learned the lesson of personal accountability. He asked to be like his father, but he did not know what that meant. And when he found out, he denied his father, he denied his people, and he denied his purpose. We humans do this as well, and often choose to live in ignorance, pretending that nothing is wrong, or we have no issues, or that we are really a good person, or that we can do nothing about the situation. But the lesson we should take away from the story is that we should not hide in an ignorance that is not there. We are not children any longer. We should not live in a fantasy world where everything is perfect and just as it should be. Instead, be truthful about the realities and acknowledge our shortcomings, confronting our problems and not avoiding them. If you watched the previous Why'd the Dad Die video, then you can probably see the theme that is being built here. The hero's ignorance is crushed by the reality of death, and it is through that crushed ignorance that the hero goes on his journey, learning the importance of sacrifice and understanding that killing his enemy may be necessary, so that he can defeat the one who is causing such death. Each one of these episodes that I produce will ultimately follow this theme to hammer home the point of why the dad dies.
With your dad. Come here, you.
Oh, no! Come here. Dad? We're pals, right?
Right.